today we're going to talk about sycing, why it's going to change your life, not to sound dramatic or anything, but I promise it will, how to actually start doing it by just slightly tweaking your nutrition, your exercise routine, your work, your personal life, just a little bit, because sycing is really not as complicated as it sometimes seems to be. And I can tell you from the bottom of my heart that starting to align my life to my cycle has literally been a game changer for me, and I wish someone has told me years ago what I'm going to tell you in this video. So why should you even care about this? First and foremost, by syncing your life to your cycle, you're not making life harder than it needs to be. You won't feel out of place or unable or like a failure or like a weak little muffin and beat yourself up about it, but instead take advantage of each phase's strengths while minding and taking care of its weaknesses. And you will help your whole hormone system to be healthier and to function as it should be functioning. And by that, you will improve everything in your life. Your mood, your energy levels, your skin, your gut health, your food cravings, and it lower, if not erase, your PMS symptoms. Where so many women, once they start working with their cycle and not against it, even if they used to have the worst period pains and the worst mood swings before the period, feel like a huge weight is lifted off their shoulders because these symptoms are just barely there anymore, or not at all. So whatever your symptoms are now, I can promise you, sycing will change your life. Period. Pun intended. So what are these 4 phases of your menstrual cycle that you go through every month? The first phase is menstruation, which starts on the first day of your period and usually lasts for about 5 to 7 days. And in this phase, both estrogen and progesterone are pretty low, and that's when your uterine lining sheds and you bleed. The second phase is the follicular phase, where estrogen is slowly rising, and this phase usually lasts about 7 to 10 days. After that, there's the ovulatory phase, so as the name suggests, when you're ovulating, and that phase typically lasts for 3 to 4 days. And here, estrogen, LH, and FSH are peaking, and progesterone is pretty low, which is also why you tend to feel your best and most energized during that phase. And then after that comes the luteal phase, which usually lasts about 10 to 14 days. And here, progesterone rises and estrogen is at its lowest. And this is also the phase, especially towards the end of the phase, where we have our famous PMS symptoms, including cravings, low energy, and moodiness. And while the average menstrual cycle lasts for 28 days, that doesn't mean that your cycle has to last for 28 days or is unhealthy if it's shorter or longer. So it's important to know when your phases are actually present. Now, how can you know that? First, by tracking, and second, by listening to your body and its symptoms. And I'll talk about which symptoms are typical for each phase in a second. But first, I want to emphasize that even if you don't have a regular cycle, aka sometimes maybe it's 23 days long, sometimes it's 40 days long, still sycing can help you a lot. Okay, so phase number 1, menstruation. This phase is the easiest to distinguish from the other ones because that's the phase where you're bleeding. Here, especially in the beginning, our energy tends to be low because, well, our body's actually bleeding. So it's important to be very gentle to yourself. In terms of nutrition, that means to focus on warm foods. So think stews, soups, anything cooked rather than salads or anything raw and cold. In terms of movement, to take it a bit slower. So either not work out at all or do very gentle things like Pilates or yoga or just gentle walking, whatever feels good to you. But especially not to push yourself through any hard workout just to be disciplined. This is very important, especially in this phase, because I, for example, used to, not take care of that and just work out whatever time of the month it was. And I was so irritated because I felt like I was getting sick almost when I worked out during my period. Now I know why, because my body just did not have that extra energy or that kind of energy available for working out. So now I just don't work out and I just do stretching and maybe some yoga and walking. Then it's also very, very important to take care of your sleep hygiene during that phase, because when we're on our period, we need more sleep, but also we tend to sleep shittier, which makes having a good sleep hygiene even more important. What does that mean? For example, no doom scrolling, but instead having something calming, some calm routine before going to bed, like taking a slow evening walk, reading a book, listening to a calming podcast, things like that. And in general, it helps during that phase to just allow yourself to rest, both in terms of physical work, but also mind work. So productivity, meaning if possible, try to not put too many tasks in that phase, but allow yourself to take enough work breaks as well. The same goes for your social life probably, unless you feel like you're very sociable during that phase, everybody's different, but most of us do not really feel very sociable in like going out during that phase, but more like, going into bed and watching a Netflix show all day long. And if your life allows for it, try to do that. Or at least to not put the most important stressful social events in that phase. So if possible, try to let your schedule be a bit lighter than usual. And in general, be gentle to yourself in that phase. Also, when it comes to judging your body, because during your menstruation, it is very, very common and to some extent normal to be a bit bloated and to feel a bit heavier and to look and be a bit more swollen, because actually our body holds on to more water right before our period and in the beginning of a period, which is also why we tend to weigh more during our period or right before it. But that is not pap, that is body water, which is one more reason why I keep telling people to not just focus on your weight, but instead to focus on your body composition, aka how much muscle mass you have, how much fat mass you have, and how much body water you currently have in your body. And one tool that can help you a lot with that is a body pot by Hume Health, who are very kindly sponsoring today's video. Body pot is not just a smart scale, it's a body analyzer. It helps you, like the name suggests, analyze your whole body, and it does that with a medical grade accuracy of 98%. And it is so easy to use. You just step on it, you grab the handles, and then you let the magic do its thing. And then in the app, which is free by the way, you can analyze basically everything. You can analyze how much muscle mass you have, how much fat mass you have, how much body water you have, which is most likely going to go up right before and during your period. But it tells you even more. For example, how much visceral fat you have, so how much fat around your organs, which is a very, very unhealthy kind of fat. And also how much muscle and fat mass you have in your arms, your trunk, so your core basically, and your legs. So you know exactly which area needs a bit more attention in the gym. The body pot is also HSA or FSA eligible, which means if you live in the US, you might actually get it covered by your health insurance. If you want to get your own body pot, use the link in my description and my discount code to save up to 50% off total. But remember that the discount code is valid only for 7 days. That being said, don't stress yourself out over your weight, but especially not during your period. Phase number 2 is the follicular phase, which comes right after or starts at the end of your menstruation. And that's where you start feeling like yourself again, and your energy is rising and your mood is improving, and you feel like going out again and meeting people and talking to people and getting stuff done. You suddenly feel able to do stuff again. Nutrition-wise, in this phase, it's good to focus on more cold and fresh fruits, and also to focus on fiber, which helps flush out extra estrogen that might have been building up before this phase, to focus on lean protein and also complex carbs, because during this phase is basically the best time to eat carbs because your insulin sensitivity is at its best. And the higher protein is important because your activity levels tend to be higher because you have more energy, which also means that this phase is awesome for going all in with your workouts, whether that's high intensity or just trying something new or just lifting heavier at the gym or trying out that new dance class, whatever is new and whatever you need a lot of energy for. The follicular is really the best phase to take advantage of that extra energy that you have. And that also goes for your work, because in your follicular, you tend to be more productive. So this is really the time to get things done, and especially to think bigger, because in this phase we tend to be more creative. So whenever you need to strategize or plan out your new project, this is the time to do it. And also we tend to be more confident and more sociable, outgoing. So whenever you want to try something new in terms of social life, to go to a new meetup, something like that, follicular is the best phase for that one. So once you start noticing your energy going up, your mood going up, your confidence going up, that's a big sign that you're starting your follicular phase. So take advantage of that. The ovulatory phase is kind of the peak of the follicular phase. So you have the most energy, you're the most confident. Often you also look your best. You might have noticed that some days of the month you look like ooh, and then some days of the month you're like, hello there in the mirror. And that tends to be the ovulatory phase, which kind of makes sense when you think about it, because that's the phase when we're supposed to, be impregnated. Did you say that? So it helps to look our best. So it kind of makes sense. And in this phase, it's good nutrition-wise to focus on more colder and raw foods, because ovulation is kind of like our body's summer, while menstruation is our body's winter, kind of. Exercise-wise, you have the most energy in this phase, so do whatever you want to do and go all in. Again, whether that's strength training, cardio, high intensity, trying out something new. Work-wise, again, you're probably going to be very productive in that phase, especially regarding work that requires your confidence. That can be communication or writing. So whenever you have a thesis to write or a paper to write or a presentation to write or hold, this is the phase to do it, because first you're more confident, but also you are more articulate. You tend to be more articulate in that phase. And also you tend to be more sociable, also because you tend to be more articulate and confident, but also you just feel like being around people. So if you want to throw a big party, ovulation phase is the best time to do that. And then after this kind of hormone summer comes the fall/winter, the luteal phase, the fourth phase. And that's where all the more negative symptoms, if you want to call them that, arise, from your skin changing to maybe not, its best version. That happens to me. For example, I tend to get breakouts during my luteal. You become more lower energy, more introspective, more moody, more like, I want to stay inside, especially towards the end of that phase, the closer your period comes again. And it really, really, really helps if you just give into that. You start focusing on resting more and to taking things slower. Nutrition-wise, this is the phase where we tend to have a lot of cravings. Also because for some of us, our calorie needs actually go up a little bit during that phase. And if we, want to stick to our calorie goal or something like that, that can lead to cravings because we're under eating. And whenever we under eat, we tend to overeat later on. But also maybe you have specific cravings, for example, for chocolate, which is very common because chocolate is very magnesium rich. And magnesium is very important during that phase, just as it's very helpful during your menstrual phase. Also, it's very helpful in this phase to focus on fiber again to help with your cravings, and also to include more root vegetables to help with your hormone balance. So think sweet potatoes, pumpkin, carrots, beetroot, things like that. Workout-wise, it's good to take it a bit slower. So maybe do strength training, but if you feel too weak for that, maybe switch to lower impact like Pilates or yoga. Work-wise, we tend to be less inspired during that phase. Maybe also a bit lazier. We don't want to think that much creatively. So this is the best time to do more simple tasks, like admin tasks, like things that you just need to check off your list, whether that's do the taxes or other admin stuff that you can think of that does not require too much brain energy, creative energy. In social life-wise, we tend to be different. If you're an introvert, you probably start to wanting to stay home even more than usual. If you're more of an extrovert, you might actually crave to be around people more to help them lift your mood. So in this case, again, do whatever you feel like. But if you don't feel like going out, try to not force yourself to do that. Because then you listen to the symptoms your body's sending you, because symptoms are basically your body speaking to you, and you adjust your life as much as possible. Don't stress yourself out, as always, to these symptoms, to these different phases of your cycle. You will help your body to balance its hormones a lot better. And when your hormones are balanced, your whole life is just gonna run so much more smoothly. And since our hormones are a system that work together, so every little hormone in the hormone system should be working correctly, it's important to take care of all of the hormones. And in this video, I shared 25 small habits for hormone balance. Thank you so much for watching, and happy cycle syncing.